Do you consent to this recording, Lucy?
I do consent.
Cool, let's get started. Hi everybody, welcome to LILU Talks, where we explore the transformative power of digital innovation, delve into the nuances of tech leadership from a female lens, emotions and technology, people and inclusivity, and much more, inviting leaders and experts from all over to join us for an impactful and eye-opening discussion. So whether you are an inspiring entrepreneur, a leader, a seasoned professional, or simply curious about the ever-evolving digital landscape, we invite you to join as we embark on this adventure together. Stay tuned for thought-provoking discussions, inspiring stories, actionable insights that will empower you to navigate the exciting world of digital innovation. We are your hosts, Lisa
and Lucy.
And we are thrilled to have you join us on this journey. But before we dive into the fascinating topics we will be covering, let us share a little bit about ourselves.
So, a little bit of history. I got my start in technology working in support, really. I highly recommend it as a really good way to get your, really work up some chops in customer experience, because, it's often a humbling experience. It's definitely a learning experience every day in dealing with people. Really, really great foundation to customer service coming in via the support angle. And wound up at Fidelity, where I started off running the support desk and kind of morphed my career a few times, created myself a new role a few times. Lucky for me, there was a lot of flexibility at Fidelity that allowed me to do that. If I could make a good case for a particular role or how I would bring value to the organization, Fidelity is a place where they were very open to that kind of creativity, which was great for me. So I started moving into solution design, a lot of automation, a lot of process design, because I started seeing things around me that weren't working so well. I love going after those really icky, sticky problems that nobody else likes. Those are my favorite kind. It's the most satisfying when you get to drop kick them, implement something that makes people's day better. Now I'm in the kind of solution design, transformation space. And allowed to use a little bit of my delivery capability. I seem to be quite good at getting things done, which is handy, but I also get to bring a bit of creativity to that as well, in terms of, really digging into those UX tangly problems and the solution design element. Even process design is creative. All right, we're in the intro here, Lisa. Don't get me started. I'll get into that another time, but there's creativity in process design. There is, I promise. It's real. So, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Lucy. For me, I am a digital specialist, having lived in San Francisco and worked in San Francisco and studied in San Francisco for 9 years. And it was kind of part of my career. I was born and raised in Germany, raised by Persian parents in Germany, then lived in San Francisco, then moved back to Germany and lived in South Korea for a little bit. And now I'm in the UK for 3 years. So being a cultural hot pot, bringing what San Francisco has offered in terms of innovation and progression to Europe, and sometimes even comparing where they stand versus us. But yeah, my personal interests go beyond the tech world. I'm passionate about cars, fashion, food. Yeah, I've worked in very diverse fields. So Lucy, for you, has been, the path of being in technology and working for, Fidelity for many, many years. I very much look up to you, and here's how we are so different. I am someone who's been around and has worked for different companies in different industries, because I just love to learn as much as I can. And the short periods that I had in these different countries that I lived in. So we complement each other very well. And hopefully we will bring a lot of insights. to you guys?
Yeah, that's something that I really respect about your career as well. I love how varied your experience is, and having been at Fidelity for almost 14 years now,
Wow.
it's so interesting for me to hear your perspective because you've got such a varied experience. So I think that's one of the pleasures that we're going to have from this podcast. Let me ask you a question. Just while you were introducing yourself there, it made me wonder how much of your career now was intentional?
That's a very good question. The only intention that I had set when I started my career journey, and it will include university as well, was I knew I want to leave Germany. I want to go beyond the comfort of my home and friends and staying where, the path is kind of set for you, right? But it just wasn't for me. I was raised by parents that immigrated to Germany to give me and my sister a better life. And I was inspired by that. So I thought, hey, why do I not do the same thing? I want to leave Germany. I want to learn something beyond books and benches. And for me, I guess the path was going to a completely different country, thousands and thousands of miles away. And that was the only planned thing. Initially, it was an exchange program. I didn't think I would actually study and stay there until one day I took a class at UC Berkeley, which was for English, and another one was for Chinese. Yes, I tapped into the Chinese language. Don't ask me how that is going. But yeah, I studied there, and I said to myself, I would love to study at UC Berkeley. It went, and from there, one step followed another, and I then took it, yeah, one step at a time. How about you, Lucy? You were born and raised in the UK, right? And
Right.
what was the most challenging thing that you have faced in your career path and even living in the UK? Have you ever thought going elsewhere? Has the UK always been where you wanted to be?
Yeah, wow, your experience just makes me feel positively unadventurous. I over time I have considered going elsewhere to work, but yeah, those were things that I considered when I was a bit older, so past the kind of studying phase of life. So I didn't go to university or move into any kind of further education. Although I have one A level, but I do that for fun. But it's English lit because I love books. But yeah, that was really just for fun. It wasn't for anything, for any purpose. Like you, I love learning. So another one of our many similarities. I think both of us really enjoy being in that growth mindset. I find it really energizing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started working, and the reason I asked you that question is because I was thinking about how unintentional my path has been. And I always just say that I followed my nose to the next thing. I kind of would just sniff out what I liked and what was interesting to me, and I would just follow that thing, and then I would find another one and I'd follow that thing. And it's always been really important to me that I like what I'm doing, because I find that I'm so much more invested in it, and then I'm better at it. I perform better. I add more value. I do better things for other people if I love what I'm doing. So I've always tried to seek out what I enjoy doing. And the reason I got into support is because I was working for the Environment Agency in an admin role. It's just my first kind of, I suppose, real job outside of, sort of restaurants and retail when I was in my late teens. And I was working with these three older ladies who were absolutely lovely. It was like having three mums or three grannies to work with. So it was just the coziest and most wonderful environment to work in every day. And let me tell you, these ladies would just sit there and click on yes until the building burned down around them. And all I used to do every day was come in and fix whatever the thing is that they had done the previous day. One of them accidentally managed to save the global template for a blank document in Word to have a picture of a church on it. That's the kind of thing I was fixing day to day. So I would come in and they would say, "Oh, Lucy, I've done this thing. Can you help me undo it?" And I would say, "Okay, well, we're done now, Diane." And then I would sit down with them and just undo whatever they'd done. So I was doing my job, and I was also doing support. And obviously, it was a very safe environment to work in, so it was just a joy. And then I kind of thought, well, I'm already sort of doing support, so why don't I go and do support? So I did. I think that that phrase probably describes an awful lot of my career. I thought, why don't I just go and do this? And so I did. So that's pretty much how I've ended up here. I've just pursued what I loved, because generally what I love is what I'm good at. And if I'm adding value, most companies have got a lot of time to hear how you want to add value to them. I think an awful lot about energizers and drainers in terms of activities. So I'm always really, really conscious of what I'm doing that I find energizing and what I'm doing that is draining, and trying to tilt the balance more towards the energizers, because, and nod along or wave if you agree with me here, but when you hit that flow state, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you're most productive, you're singing, your brain is firing, and you're feeling energized. You're usually, I would say, if you're the same as me, if your max is here, when you're in that flow state, you're working somewhere here, right? So it's near your max, but not at your max. It's still comfortably uncomfortable, and that's usually when you're in that flow state. So I try to really pay attention to what I'm doing when I hit that flow state, try and notice when it happens, and then use that to help drive me towards those types of activities, not necessarily specifically that activity, but just that type of thing. What is it about that activity that puts me in that flow state, where I'm, hugely productive, really feeling energized and positive, and doing a really good job, working well with everyone around me, and producing really good quality work or quality product. Nicely articulated now. When I was younger, obviously it was just really kind of a gut feel. But as I'm older, I can understand what I was shooting for. But that's what I've done through all of my career, really.
So I would like to tap into something you said just now, and that's energizers and drainers, right? And that's a very interesting topic to talk about and discuss, because there's one thing that, and this is what our podcast is about, to kind of elevate the female perspective at work. We are, and even I have just learned about this, and that is a female's menstrual cycle. Yes, I've said it. I've said it, the menstrual cycle. And I know nobody wants to talk about this because some people are like, oh, it's TMI, is not professional. No.
I do.
Exactly. And I think this is so important to talk about. General basis. Yes, we have the highs and lows and peaks, etc. But then there comes a cycle into factor. We have something called a luteal phase and all these different phases, which, by the way, is the worst of the worst. If you ever encountered a woman that suddenly has brain fog, she's completely like, I don't feel like I'm really moody, I'm tired and drained, and she doesn't seem to be as how she was literally a couple of days back. Rest assured, she's probably going through the luteal phase. And for us as females at work, it can be draining because we can never perform 100% all the time. There will be weeks or 2 weeks where we will have to take it a little bit slower, where our activities are probably less meetings, more internal work, getting stuff done without talking much. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you can relate there that when you get to that phase of the month or that particular week or two, it all depends. So just kind of discussing and making people aware of that factor for women. And
for sure. So I track mine on an app. I don't know if you do the same. I track my phases so that I can adjust my work accordingly. And also the training I do in the gym, same thing. And I know obviously, you are a Pilates goddess, so I'm sure you do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Certainly. So I know that when I'm in a particular phase, I can lift heavy. And I know that if I'm in a different phase, I need to back off. I'll have a day when I can't lift anything and I feel like a kitten. And it's all down to those phases. And it's the same with your work environment, right? So there'll be certain types of tasks that I know that maybe I need to back off of those at certain points in the month. Or, you can be sitting there just banging your head against a particular task and you just don't seem to be able to make any headway, and you think, why is this so difficult? And a lot of the time I will just have a quick look in my app and see where I'm at, And sometimes it's an easy answer of, oh, well, that makes sense. All right,
Mm.
so maybe I'm going to park this one for a couple of days. Um, and sometimes I don't think to look, and I just bang my head against it anyway. You know, you'd think you'd learn after 40 some years of this business. So, well, 30 some. Anyway, we're not here to do maths, Lisa. So we're certainly not here to do biology maths. But yeah. So yeah, though, I find having an app to track it is really really useful. But I don't know if I'm quite at a place where I'm willing to be this level of open about it as I am with you, and forgetting the fact that other people are listening. But you know, in the workplace, and certainly particular male colleagues, I'm comfortable being that open with. If I know that they have that kind of conversation with their wives and other women in their lives, then I feel very comfortable also having, you know, being that open about it. But yeah, I would say I probably temper it depending on who I'm speaking with. Do you feel the same?
It is true. Like we always tell ourselves that it should be okay to talk openly, but we all, and my opinion is, have this subconscious bias or this intuition that maybe certain people we cannot talk to. And that's just simply because we cannot expect everybody to have the same level of open-mindedness as we do. And there's nothing particularly right or wrong. When people are not as open-minded, there's nothing in particular wrong about this. Maybe they just don't know any better. Maybe that's just how they've been raised, right? We have to see it from their perspective. But I agree with you. It is, I feel I cannot talk to everyone about this. And I cannot talk to you even about like being vulnerable and open at work, right? How far can you really go? And is there a safe space to talk about these things? And this is definitely a topic. If you guys like us to delve into and dive further into, please let us know. We would love to hear more about some of the stuff that we discussed today. What would you like to talk more about? What of these topics interest you guys, right? So I think we should keep this and wait for people to ask the questions and maybe invite someone to join this podcast to talk about this. Maybe a female leader, maybe a male leader. We never know, but we would love to hear from you guys.
Well, we met at a networking event, you know, and we instantly connected. And
shout out to CIO.net, by the way.
Yes,
I wanted to mention them. Shout out.
Absolutely, we should throw them a mention because that's where we met, and that was such an awesome event. It was an eye-opening event, right? Because, you know, there was you and I think one other lady who was there as part of the panel, and there were no other women in that room.
Nope.
So that was, that was a really interesting one for me. There was definitely, I think, a consensus in terms of the topics being discussed, and you and I threw a few curveballs in there, which, you know, obviously we both really enjoyed, because it's always fun to cause trouble in a big room full of, middle-aged men. I always enjoy that. But you know,
no offense to any middle-aged men here. It's just
no offense. We just like always in trouble. You know, makes you feel alive. Yeah. So we immediately connected, and I think we realised that there was quite a lot of subjects that we were really invested in talking about. I think actually we had to kind of decide consciously to stop talking to each other and try and move around the room. Otherwise, we were going to just go off into a corner with a bottle of wine and have a lovely evening and not actually do any networking. That was apparent. So we decided, you know, actually as a podcast, a really good idea to try and dig into some of these deeper conversations. So, and Lisa, something I've noticed about us when we talk is we don't seem to need much of a shortcut or an on-ramp to really get into the depth of conversations, right? We go straight in, for sure, yeah.
We would like to keep things organic and natural, so it's what you see is what you get.
A little bit less chaotic when we fumble our words every now and then.
So we don't you don't see us running around in circles and screaming.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. No, we are very professional.
When you and I were brainstorming the kind of thing we wanted to talk about, there are a few topics that come up, and I'm going to tease it. I'm not going to go into them, but there were a couple of topics that we put down on our list that actually made me think, oh, that feels a bit dangerous. And you know what? Those are the ones I really want to get after. I want to get after those topics that feel a little bit dangerous because I think, and particularly for women, there are still some taboo subjects. There are still some places where conversations don't seem to go, and I'm really keen to get into those and just stick a crowbar in and open her up.
And I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation, and drop us a comment, a like, a share. But yeah, drop a comment, drop a like, share with your friends, and let us know what other topics you would like us to discuss. If anything that we discussed today was to your likings. And stay tuned for the next one. Thank
Can't
you.
wait to do it again. Thank
Yes.
you, everybody. Thanks, Liz.